Top of the morning folks, today from the Reddit Rainforest. What is the craziest thing you have gotten away with that nobody has found out about? Early on during my freshman year of college I met a really hot Asian girl through a mutual friend. We exchanged numbers, and it turned out that she lived 5 floors above me in the same residence hall. Her roommate went home for the weekend, so she invited me to watch a movie with her in her dorm room. Fast forward a bit, and we were lying in bed together watching some stupid movie. This led to that, and before I knew it, we were making out. The clothes came off. I got on top of her and started kissing her neck. Worked my way down to her tits, then to her stomach. You get the idea. Arching up to get a good look at her figure, and saw the most horrific sight I have seen in my entire life. Her whole body, from her face all the way down to her vag, was covered in blood. My mind started to race. Thoughts flying a mile a minute as I tried to figure out what the duck happened. I noticed that my nose felt runny, so I wiped it with my hand and instantly smelled that all too familiar copper scent associated with a fresh bloody nose. Yup, I effectively slathered my bright red nose blood all over her body. It looked like a murder scene. Thank ducking God the lights were off. The girl opened her eyes a bit and asked me why I stopped. Engage Apollo 13 style problem solving. I could have just told her what happened, only to have my reputation completely ducking shattered the second week into my college career. No way. I could never settle for that. In what was probably less than a second I assessed the problem and executed the only action I could muster. A quick, "Nothing babe," followed by me retracing the path of blood I laid down on her with my tongue. Yeah, I lapped up and swallowed every last drop my blood off of her body. To my astonishment, she did not pick up the travesty I just navigated through, and we kept fooling around, even hooking up a few more times after the incident. We actually became very good friends, and we still hang out from time to time. To this day, she has no idea what happened. I told my best friend this story right after it happened. We now refer to it as the Nosferatu incident. When I was in the 5th grade, my class took a trip to Washington, D.C., and part of the trip included a visit to various Smithsonian museums. Since we had a large class, we were split into groups to visit different museums at the same time. I was part of the group who toured the Holocaust Museum. The tour was great, very illuminating for a 10-year-old to be packed into a train car and see the horrifying images of the atrocity. But the tour was the shortest of the 3 groups, so we ended up in the large open lobby/bookstore of the museum while we waited for the other groups. During this wait I got bored, and knowing me, I tend to get in trouble when bored, so I looked for something helpful to do to keep me out of trouble. I found a rag and started dusting bookshelves. That lasted for about 2 minutes until I ran out of things to dust and we were still waiting. Then I saw something I'd never seen before, a fire alarm with a very dusty plastic cover on it. I wanted to be helpful, so I went over and dusted it, but most of the dust was on the inside of the cover. So I lifted it and all hell broke loose. The sound echoed through the entire building, and I was frantically trying to get it to shut off when this enormous security guard came over and slammed the cover shut, then stood over me looking like he was about to eat me. Several people ran for the exits, and a few women I remember screamed at the sudden very loud noise. Everyone was looking at me when it was shut off. I have never since been so absolutely petrified. I have also never been more relieved than when one of the chaperones of our group hurried over to claim me. Epilogue. My teachers were already stressed out with the logistics of keeping so many kids together and safe/fed/watered/etc. on this trip that when they called me into their hotel room that night to talk, they all agreed that they would not tell my parents if I did not, and just left it at that. When we got back home, my parents were excited to tell me that I had received a letter from President Bill Clinton which basically said, "Heard you were in town. Hope you enjoyed your visit." Since I was the only one in my class to get a letter like that, I asked my teachers if they knew anything. They told me that they had been interviewed by Secret Service agents at the museum and were informed that the president was in an office in the building meeting with heads of the museum and had to be evacuated when the alarm sounded. My parents did not find out until I told them the story 12 years later. Last year, during McDonald's last Monopoly contest, I won a free quarter pounder. So I cashed it in, and the girl working there absent-mindedly handed me the free quarter pounder coupon sticker thing back. The next day I got another free quarter pounder with the same coupon. One of the best things my stepdad taught me is that if you have a coupon for a fast food joint, go through the drive-thru while they're busy, tell the speaker you have a coupon, but buy other stuff, go to the window, pay them, and do not give them the coupon unless they ask. 9/10 times they'll read the total, take your money, and forget about the coupon. In 7th grade I really had to go piss. For whatever reason. My teacher did not let me. Our class was in the school library for the day, and there were only 5 minutes left till the end of the period. I figured I could hold it and then let loose during the passing period. This proved to be futile, and as I felt the floodgates about to burst, I kneeled down in the corner of the library and let loose. I could not control it at that point, and luckily for me, no one saw me kneeling there awkwardly, or if they did, they must have thought that I was looking at the bottom row of books. I was freaking out at that point. I had no idea what to do. I was scared and embarrassed and knew that if anyone found out about it, my social reputation would be ruined. As I was kneeling there contemplating my impending social doom, the bell rang and everyone was let out to go to break. 10 minutes where we could hang out outside and eat our snack. To cover up a giant wet spot on my shorts, I pretended to tackle my friend into the grass, which was pretty wet with dew. I fell down face forward onto the grass, and when I got up, I was horrified that all my friends were laughing at me for having what looked like a piss stain on my shorts. Luckily, I was able to pass it off as the wetness of the ground, and got away with it. For the rest of the day I sat in the stink of my own piss, wondering whether anyone else could smell it. On the bus ride home, people were exclaiming that something smelled like pee, but luckily, I was not caught. When I got home, I was probably the most relieved I had ever been in my life. I took a shower, soaked my shorts, and just flopped down on my bed, exhausted from the stress of the day. To this day I have absolutely no idea how I got away with it, but by dumb luck I came out of it unscathed. To sum it up, I pissed my pants when I was 12, and by some miracle nobody found out about it. It happened when I was in grade 5. It started out like any other morning. I woke up, showered and brushed my teeth, got ready for school, the usual stuff. I guess when I was putting on my clothes in the morning, I did not take the time to check them out as I pulled them out of the dryer. Fast forward to sometime later that day, while I was sitting in class there were 2 girls that sat next to me who were giggling their little heads off. I look over at them, and they then point down. As my gaze moves towards the floor, the look of sheer terror on my face must have been priceless. There hanging out the bottom of my pants is a very small, very white and tight pair of very kiddish underwear with a giant skid mark running up the back. These were my underwear. There was nothing I could do. I had been busted. As the girls started to laugh louder, more people started to look, and eventually the teacher called back to see what all the commotion was about. I was ducked. I then did the only thing that I could do. I lifted the underwear as high as I could above my head and told the teacher that some little kid must have left their underwear behind in class. This could have happened over the lunch period. The entire class started roaring with laughter. Kids were laughing at how small they were, the big malarkey stain, the fact that it was underwear at school. I think the design was like little teddy bears or something, which did not help either. Like a champ I sat there stone cold, not even flinching. I held them between B and X and thumb in disgust, like what kind of stupid little kid left their underwear under my desk. I even cracked a joke about the malarkey stain. The teacher saved the day when she said that they were obviously too small and too childish for anyone in the 5th grade, and made me throw them in the garbage out in the hall. The whole class moved on, and it was never brought up again. When I was 16, my friend and I were driving around in his parents' car after they had left town. They told him specifically not to take the car out. We were a little high at the time and were basically just joyriding around. My friend swerved onto the side of the road and lost control of the car. We spun around a couple of times, then bashed against a concrete barrier, totally wrecking the front and passenger side of the car. After checking that we were both okay, we drove the car off onto a nearby dirt road that led to a sugarcane field. This was in Hawaii BTW. Got out of the car, grabbed a fuel can in the trunk, doused the car, lit it on fire, then ran as fast as we could through the cane. About 5 miles of running later, we arrived back at his house and made a pact never to tell anyone what happened. The next morning the cops show up at his house and he tells them that the car must have been stolen in the night and that he had not noticed since he was out until the morning with me. Wound up telling his parents the same story. The insurance company did an investigation and wound up covering the cost of a new car. 20-something years later, his parents still believe that the car was stolen that night. We have only spoken about it once since it happened. My work had an employee cafeteria where lunch was $1 and the food was actually pretty good. I was a freshman in college, and $1 was something that was better used for you call it rather than lunch. They had these punch cards you could buy that had 10 meals on them for $8. In looking at the punch card, I realized it was just printed on normal cardstock. I bought one, took a picture of it, did not have a scanner, and imported it in a graphics program. I then made 10 versions, all with different serial numbers. I printed out hundreds and passed them out to my friends at work. When we used 9 meals, we would throw it away, so the serial number was not tracked. We would always buy random employees their lunch for them, out of the goodness of our hearts. Whenever I got low, I would just print out more. We used them for nearly 2 years, netting in at least a few thousand free lunches. In 3rd grade, I cheated on my history exam. In 4th grade, I stole my Uncle Maximum's toupee and I glued it on my face when I was Moses in my Hebrew school play. In 5th grade, I knocked my sister Edie down the stairs and I blamed it on the dog. When my mom sent me to the summer camp for fat kids and then they served lunch, I went nuts and I pigged out and they kicked me out. But the worst thing I ever done, I mixed a pot of fake puke at home and then I went to this movie theater, hid the puke in my jacket, climbed up to the balcony and then I made a noise like this, hua 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 hua, and then I dumped it over the side, all over the people in the audience, and then, this was horrible. All the people started getting sick and throwing up all over each other. I never felt so bad in my entire life. When I was 19, I had the keys to the office where I worked in central London. It was an office of about a dozen people and only ever used Monday to Friday. So at the weekends I went clubbing with friends and ended up back at my office, a 5-minute walk from the clubs and above a bar, for the usual sex party. No one at work found out it had dirty, loud sex on the receptionist's table, all the director's desks, and the boardroom table, and on the photocopier. 147 miles per hour. Found a sandwich bag of mysterious white powder in some chick's purse. Some buddies thought it was drugs, so a couple of them tasted it, and one guy snorted a line. The following day I found out that the sandwich bag actually contained dead grandma ashes. Yup. When I was 16, I got caught breaking into a hotel pool bar to steal booze. I ran, was chased by cops, evaded them, and hid. They eventually found me, so I ran again. I evaded them again, and managed to avoid being tased. I hid again, found a disguise, left my hiding place, and walked right past them, back to my original hotel. By the time the evening was over, I had spent over an hour evading more than a dozen police officers through 3 hotels and a beach in 2 different outfits. I had more adrenaline pumped through my veins than some people do in a lifetime, and basically made a fool out of the entire police department. In 6th grade, my teacher would give us red ticket stubs we could use to redeem for things as a reward for being good and such. One day, I'm at the party outlet store, and I see that they're selling rolls of these exact same stubs. I get some, and end up saving about a dozen for school so as to be inconspicuous if the teacher saw her ticket system inflating like the German mark in the 30s. Shit gets suspicious. Fast forward to Christmas. The teacher announces that we'll have a raffle for some Christmas gifts the last day of school before break, and enter using our tickets. I, along with most other people, had legitimately built up approximately 10 or so, but along with those, I entered in my 12 counterfeits. The day of the raffle comes, and I was blown away. Our teacher went all out on this malarkey: giant stuffed animals, board games with metal pieces, articles of clothing, new hardcover books, the works. She starts the drawing for the various prizes, and lo and behold, in the first winner, I got a giant stuffed snowman half the size of me, and I had to leave the room to put it in my locker. I come back not 5 minutes later to find that I had won twice more. It was like reverse karma. No problem. Except I really do not want to win anything more, lest Miss Teacher gets skeptical. Well, I did keep winning. Between my several trips to the locker though, I think Miss Teachery raffled off some of my stuff as a matter of wealth redistribution, and I was nervous about my scheme imploding on me, so I did not contest. I ended that day with a giant stuffed snowman, and metal Simpsons chess set, and some new clothing. No one suspected a thing. To sum it up, I artificially inflated a children's currency and profited handsomely. I was the 1% of my 6th grade class. I had a date in a few days, and then noticed I had a pimple on my ball sack. It was a big one, and was worried it would not go away in time to meet this girl. I had the idea that if I applied water remover, it would speed up the healing process. So on break I went to Shoppers Drug Mart and bought some water remover. Then I went to the bathroom and applied a healthy dose. I went back to my desk, cringing from the pain, but happy that I could feel it working its magic. Then someone complained of a smell in my direction. I panicked, then said, "Yeah, what is that smell?" I stuck my hand in my pocket and felt moisture. Then to my horror, I could feel that I did not tighten the cap of the bottle. I removed the bottle from my pocket, soaked in the stuff, and dropped it under my desk. Then beelined back to the bathroom. I locked the door, took my pants off, and washed the hell out of the pocket. Then dried the hell out of my pants. I got back to my desk and felt no one could link me to the crime. Soon people really started to complain about the smell. Then someone walked into the office and said the bathroom stunk like some chemical. Then the managers made us all move to the other side of the floor. My manager said they would bring some maintenance people to investigate the smell. I went pale when I remembered that the bottle was still under my desk. So I slipped away, went the long way around, and returned to the other side of the floor. I retrieved the bottle, noticed that the cap was off, and the water remover was soaked into the carpet. I then beelined to the bathroom and flushed the bottle down the toilet and snuck back with the rest of the group. We worked away, and then the maintenance guys came and looked for the smell. It was bad. One of the guys got sick, and we were ordered to leave the floor. As we were leaving, I heard a maintenance guy talking about how bad it was and should clear the building. He pulled the fire alarm. We stood outside, and I watched in amazement as floods of people poured out of the 32-story building. Then fire trucks came. An hour went by, and we were told it was not safe to return into the building, and they were bringing a specialist from Toronto to investigate. We all went home. The next day, I casually asked if they ever found out what the smell was. They never did. I was always a little worried they would see me being suspicious on camera or something. But no, it was never found what the smell was. To sum it up, I cleared a 32-story office building with a spilt bottle of water remover, and no one ever found out it was me. In college, my buddy and I lived near a dude who we saw kick, hit and abuse his dog. When he and his wife were gone on an overpass trip, we broke into their house and took the dog. We had an adoptive family waiting in a nearby town. I felt bad when the woman cried about the dog, but she never stopped her old man from hurting the dog, so I figured it was the right thing to do. Unfortunately, it is the end of the video, but do not worry, there are many more coming. Like and subscribe for more posts from the Reddit Rainforest. Thanks for watching.